is it?
The stuff that dreams are made of.
Huh?
A gossip columnist once decided who got to be a movie star, and her interference helped create the Maltese Falcon. This is the Maltese Falcon, and you thought you knew this story. Welcome back to the film that launched 1,000 trench coats. If you watched my first Maltese Falcon video, buckle up. These are the facts that I couldn't fit, and trust me, they're brutal. Louella Parsons saved Bogart's career. Here's something wild. Bogart almost never made this movie. Not because of George Raft turning it down, but because Warner Brothers had him on ice. He'd been suspended for 2 months for refusing to star in a Western called Bad Men of Missouri. The studio was making him bleed. No paycheck, no work. Just sitting on his yacht called the Sluggy, drinking and fuming. Enter Louella Parsons, the most powerful gossip columnist in America. She had William Randolph Hearst backing her. Yes, the Citizen Kane guy, which meant her column reached millions. Parsons wanted Bogart on her radio show, Hollywood Hotel. So she leaned on Warner Brothers hard. After 2 months of suspension, the studio caved. Without Louella Parsons playing Kingmaker, there's no Sam Spade. A gossip columnist literally made film noir possible. The Purple Diary scandal made Astor perfect for the role. Mary Astor wasn't just cast as Bridget O'Shaughnessy. She was Bridget O'Shaughnessy. In 1936, 5 years before this film, Astor's life exploded in the most Hollywood scandal of the 30s. Her ex-husband, during a brutal custody battle, stole her personal diaries. Then he leaked them to the press. These weren't grocery lists. Astor had documented her passionate affair with Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright George S. Kaufman in breathless, explicit detail. The excerpts were everywhere. One supposedly described Kaufman's prowess with phrases that made 1936 America clutch its pearls. The scandal knocked Hitler off the front page. But here's the twist. Instead of destroying her career, it made her more popular. Samuel Goldwyn refused to fire her during filming of Dodsworth, even with studio pressure. She won her custody case. By 1941, when Huston cast her as the lying, murderous femme fatale, everyone in America knew Mary Astor had secrets. That wasn't typecasting. That was genius. John Huston pranked his own father. John Huston pulled one of the wildest practical jokes on his own father, veteran actor Walter Huston. Walter was cast in a tiny part as a wounded ship captain, but John kept having him redo the simple scene over and over, until his father was sore and frustrated. Then Huston had Mary Astor call him, pretending the producers wanted reshoots. And when Walter exploded, John revealed the prank in peals of laughter. Sydney Greenstreet's terrified film debut at age 61. Sydney Greenstreet was 61 years old when he made the Maltese Falcon. It was his first film, ever. He'd spent 40 years on stage, thousands of performances, but movies terrified him. The permanence of it, the camera seeing everything. Huston discovered him in a Los Angeles play with Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. The moment Huston saw that 285-pound frame combined with that sophisticated English accent, he knew he'd found his Gutman. Right before his first scene, the long monologue where Gutman explains the Falcon's history while drugging Spade, Greenstreet was a wreck. Mary Astor wrote in her autobiography that he grabbed her hand and begged, "Mary dear, hold my hand. Tell me I won't make an ass of meself." Greenstreet nailed it. That's why John Huston held his breath the entire time. A nervous tick he kept his whole career. The 61-year-old rookie got an Oscar nomination. In his first film, against Bogart, who'd made 40 films by then. The guy was so big, the studio had to custom make all his furniture and costumes. Even his chair had to be specially reinforced. Quick pause. If you're digging these twisted stories, do me a solid. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. Trust me, there's more darkness coming. The fastest talking film noir was studio interference. That rapid-fire dialogue everyone associates with film noir? The rat-a-tat pacing that defined the genre? That was a studio note. Warner Brothers executives watched early cuts and thought Sam Spade had too many long speeches. They told Huston to speed everything up, make the actors talk faster. Huston, desperate to please on his directorial debut, told the entire cast to pick up the pace. Bogart, Astor, Laurie, Greenstreet, everyone started machine-gunning their lines. When the film became a hit, that breakneck dialogue rhythm became the defining characteristic of film noir. The entire genre's signature style came from studio executives who thought the movie was too slow. The Falcon that injured Bogart is still dented. 8 Falcon props were made for the film. 2 were lead, weighing 45 to 50 pounds each. 6 were plaster. During filming, Lee Patrick, who played F.E. Spade's secretary, accidentally dropped one of the lead Falcons on Humphrey Bogart's foot. That specific Falcon is now in the Warner Brothers Studio Museum. You can still see the dent in the tail feathers from where it hit the ground. In 2013, one of the lead Falcons sold at auction for over $4 million. Each surviving Falcon is now worth more than 3 times what the entire film cost to make. Bogart wore his own clothes to save money. Warner Brothers was so cheap they made Bogart supply his own wardrobe. This was standard practice at the studio, a cost-cutting measure. So Sam Spade's iconic look? Those sharp suits? That's Humphrey Bogart's actual closet. His personal style became one of cinema's most imitated looks. Meanwhile, Sydney Greenstreet needed everything custom-made because nothing fit his 285 to 357-pound frame. The film was almost called The Gent from Frisco. Warner Brothers wanted to rename the film The Gent from Frisco. Seriously. Why? Because the title, The Maltese Falcon, had already been used for the 1931 version starring Ricardo Cortez. The studio thought audiences would be confused. John Huston fought them. Hard. The novel was called The Maltese Falcon. Changing the title was insane. There's even an in-joke about this buried in the film. When Spade walks past a movie poster early on, it's for a fake film called The Girl from Albany. Huston won. The film kept its name. Ingrid Bergman studied Bogart frame by frame for Casablanca. When Ingrid Bergman was cast opposite Bogart in Casablanca, filmed just 1 year after The Maltese Falcon, she had a problem. She didn't know Bogart. She found him distant and hard to read. Her solution? She watched The Maltese Falcon over and over and over. She studied his Sam Spade performance frame by frame to understand how Bogart worked. That's why the chemistry in Casablanca is so electric. She learned Bogart's rhythms, his gestures, his silences by watching him interrogate Mary Astor and dodge Sydney Greenstreet's schemes. The famous 7-minute camera sequence. In The Maltese Falcon, there's a much-admired scene where Caspar Gutman calmly drugs Sam Spade while explaining the history of the Falcon. The moment is often remembered as a 7-minute continuous take, though film historians more carefully describe it as an extended moving camera sequence. The camera follows the actors through several rooms, gliding down a hallway, then panning and rising as Spade grows woozy. Every movement, actors, camera, sound, had to be precisely timed. One mistake meant starting all over. Critic Roger Ebert later called it an astonishing, unbroken 7-minute take, and the film's script supervisor said it was the most complicated camera setup she had ever seen. Call it a take or call it a sequence. Either way, in 1941, on his very first film as a director, John Huston pulled off something audiences are still talking about today. The Falcon is based on a real jeweled hawk that still exists. The Maltese Falcon in the film was based on a real object, the Kniphausen hawk. It's a ceremonial pouring vessel made in 1697 for Georg Wilhelm von Kniphausen, Count of the Holy Roman Empire. It's modeled after a hawk perched on a rock and is encrusted with red garnets, amethysts, emeralds, and sapphires. You can see it today. It's owned by the Cavendish family and sits in the collection at Chatsworth House in England. So when Sydney Greenstreet spins his elaborate tale about Knights Templar and Charles V of Spain in 1539, that's complete fiction. George Raft's career-killing memo. George Raft didn't just turn down the Maltese Falcon verbally. He put it in writing. On June 6, 1941, Raft sent a memo to Jack L. Warner stating, "I strongly feel that the Maltese Falcon which you want me to do is not an important picture." Not an important picture. Those 5 words destroyed his career. See, Raft's contract gave him veto power over any role he deemed unworthy of his name. He'd already turned down High Sierra, which went to Bogart and was a smash hit. Raft's reasoning seemed logical. The story had already been filmed twice, in 1931 and 1936 as Satan Met a Lady with Bette Davis. Both flopped. Raft was also terrified of being overshadowed. He'd just gotten into a fistfight with Edward G. Robinson on the set of Manpower because he hated sharing screen time. Warner Brothers gave the role to Bogart, who was still on suspension. Hammett sold the rights to Sam Spade forever, by accident. Dashiell Hammett wrote The Maltese Falcon as a 5-part serial for Black Mask magazine starting in 1929. Warner Brothers bought the film rights in 1930 for $8,500, about $155,000 today. But here's what Hammett didn't realize. The contract included the rights to the character of Sam Spade. Forever. Years later, when Hammett tried to write more Sam Spade stories, Warner Brothers informed him he no longer owned the character. They did. This haunted Hammett for the rest of his life. In 1951, he was sent to prison for refusing to cooperate with the House Un-American Activities Committee. While in prison, he listened to The Adventures of Sam Spade radio show, a character he'd created but no longer owned. The film finished 2 days early and $54,000 under budget. Warner Brothers gave Huston 6 weeks to shoot the film with a budget of $300,000. They were taking a chance on a first-time director. Huston storyboarded every single scene. He rehearsed extensively on a closed set. He shot almost entirely in sequence, rare for Hollywood then and now. His preparation was so meticulous that almost no dialogue was cut in the final edit. Producer Henry Blanke gave him the advice he'd carry forever. Shoot each scene as if it was the most important scene in the film. The result? They finished 2 days early and came in $54,000 under budget, about $990,000 in today's money. Mary Astor ran laps before every scene. John Huston wanted Bridget O'Shaughnessy to always seem breathless, nervous, on edge. So before every scene, he made Mary Astor run around the set. Multiple times, full sprints, until she was genuinely winded. That's why Astor's performance feels so alive and frantic. She's actually struggling to catch her breath while delivering her lines. It's not acting, it's biology. Method acting before method acting had a name. Astor called the script a humdinger and signed on immediately after one meeting with Huston and Bogart. The Maltese Falcon changed everything. It launched Bogart's career, defined film noir, and proved a first-time director could be a genius. But behind the perfect film was chaos, scandals, pranks, a gossip columnist playing puppet master, a father tortured by his son, an actress running laps in heels, a 61-year-old stage actor terrified of his first camera. The stuff that dreams are made of? It's built on bruised egos, stolen diaries, and one writer who sold his soul to Warner Brothers for $8,500. Drop a comment and tell me which story shocked you most. What did I miss? And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because there's always another shadow to explore. See you in the shadows.